भुवः सौहै तच्चवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। Namaste to everyone. Welcome to Dr. Ramesh sir for joining this meeting. And Dr. Ramesh sir, he is the Dean of Academy of S. Vyasa University and Associate Professor and in charge of the Biomolecular Lab of Anveshna Lab, S. Vyasa University. He has done his BSc in Microbiology, MSc in Biotechnology, and PhD in Biochemistry. And he has got so many awards also and many more research papers he has published. Mainly, he got awarded Max Planck Fellowship in 2002 and 2016. He got UGC Research Award for last so many years. Sir is doing research in the SVS University and guiding us also lots of time. I also take guidance to Dr. Ramesh sir. He's very polite in his behavior. All of you familiar to Dr. Ramesh sir also as in our inauguration meeting. On that day, he also gave his precious time, and today he came again to guide you everyone. So I'm heartily thanks to Dr. Ramesh sir to accept my request. So please welcome sir.
Thank you, Rahulji. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, Rahul, I've got only 2 hours, and you said that I've got many hours. That's okay. I just wanted to correct you. And also, I have been doing research. That is the only thing right about what Rahul said. I love research. I am into molecular biology since almost 2002. So I put 20 years experience in doing research in molecular biology. I hope I'm clear. I'm clear and audible to everybody.
Yes,
So
Ramesh sir.
and I recently came. I was just into molecular biology, and I came into yoga and molecular biology research in 2015. And from the last 8 years, I have really enjoyed understanding or using molecular biology in yoga. I don't have to say much about yoga because I'm sure that all of you guys know much more about yoga than what I do. But what I can say is the yoga that I see as a molecular biologist, how I see what yoga can do. You all know that yoga can, um, I'm just trying to present. I have not prepared any exclusive presentation for this talk, but I'll be using one of the presentations that I used for giving a talk in Kavi Kulaguru Kalidas University very recently. So if some of you were there in that talk, I think this will be a kind of repetition for you. Otherwise, um, this is going to be something new. So I'll be just talking, like I said, about how I see what yoga does to human body. Uh, I hope the slide is visible. Is the slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So uh, yoga is a mind body therapy, as you all know. When we say mind body therapy, we just think that there is the actions are defined by mind and it is executed by the body, or vice versa. What you do at the body level, physiology level, decides how your psychology works. So this thing, it seems very simple, right? I mean, when we see that mind and body are related, of course, we all know that as a cliched term. Sab jante ki, without your psychology, your physiology cannot function. Without your physiology, psychology cannot function. But when you just ask one deeper question, how exactly is it related? Right? And one thing what comes up is, if you want we can make this more interactive, so you can also participate. You can stop me at any point of time. You can ask me question, and if you are fine, I will ask you questions, not like to test your knowledge, but just to have an interaction with you. I'll be just asking things, so please don't hesitate to um, kind of stop me whenever you feel like, or get into a discussion, or we can also have a interactive session, however you like. So like I was saying, when we say mind body, we all know that mind interacts with body and the body interacts with mind. But we most of the times fail to kind of clearly describe how exactly is that interaction. What is that what is that links the mind and the body? But one very simple thing, and then one very common thing which we all know, is the neurotransmitters and hormones. Right? We all know that our brain produces a lot of neurotransmitters, and it is also responsible for stimulating hormones in different parts of the body. So these neurotransmitters and hormones are the ones which are like messengers. They take the message from the brain, what your brain is trying to say, and change how your body should function for at that given moment of time, for that particular kind of response. For example, if there is a threat, you need to fight or flight. You need to either run away or you have to stand there and fight the situation. And how does your mind perceives that? Your eye sees that there is a threat, your ear hears that there is a threat, and you know that there is a threat in front of you. But how does it tell? How does your brain tell your legs to just start running, or your hands to become, increase the blood flow to your arm and start fighting? How does it happen? It happens through these neurotransmitters and hormones. So these neurotransmitters and hormones are, that's why, called as messengers. So they take the message from the mind to the body. And these messengers, what they do, how they do, we will go in a short while. This was just an introduction into how we use molecular biology in trying to understand yoga. So we look at all these messengers and what these messengers do at the body level or at the physiology level. Okay. So before that, I would just like to introduce you to some uh, uh, information on the research that has been happening in different alternative systems. And when we look at from 2011 onwards to until 2020, it looks like yoga has been the most popular mind-body therapy that has been researched upon. There are other equally potent, equally viable other techniques which are also gaining popularity in research as well. Yoga is one of the mind-body therapies which is being researched in many countries far and wide, including India. And just again to give a very brief introduction to yoga research, we have actually empirically started doing yoga research in the past maybe 20 to 30 years. But before that, one of the first foundation to yoga as a science and yoga to be researched was done by Kuvalayananda in 1924, when he started a journal dedicated for yoga research called Yoga Mimamsa. And then onwards, one doctor in AIMS, Dr. Chandra Patel, he was a cardiologist. He started researching on his patients who were practicing yoga, about changes that you would see in your cardiovascular system, your heart, and other things. But he was mostly using ECG, but he started doing research in the way that research is supposed to be conducted, following all the rigors of modern scientific research. So it was around 1970s when yoga was officially started as a research topic, also in reputed institutes like AIMS and other places. And further, uh, the Lancet and British Medical Journal, one of the first British medical journals article on yoga was from SVSI University, to which I belong. One of the first yoga journal to be published in British Medical Journal by Dr. Nagratna and Dr. Nagendra. was a kind of a paving stone, or one of the pioneering work where we knew that we can convince the Western world as well about the efficacy of yoga and the mechanism of yoga. So this gave a really big boost to yoga research. And then in India, one of the pioneers were Nimhans and Vyasa to start research in yoga in the 1980s. And like I said, yoga today has reached many countries, including India. But the thing which there is still a lot of scope for improvement here in yoga research, even though the yoga research is picking up in the last 5 to 10 years at a very quick pace, it still needs how to say, to be on par with the modern medical research. There is still a lot of things that are required. So just to put that in perspective, you can see the second point. There are only 10 people citing a research finding from any given paper in 10 years' time. So the citation is still very low. Citation means, people citing what is happening in yoga, what is happening with yoga and molecular biology. I'm not just talking about molecular biology here, it is in general yoga research. So still, there are only 10 people who cite a research finding in 10 years' time. That is one citation in 1 year, which is very, very low. That needs to implement, that needs to improve. In spite, this is in spite of 60 to 90%, or because of lifestyle disorders. And the mind body medicine does is address these lifestyle disorders most efficiently than any other kind of system of medicine. I'm not trying to compare systems of medicine at all. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages. They are all equally good. I'm just trying to focus here on yoga as a medical system here. So even though 60 to 90% of the problems that a human being faces is a lifestyle associated disorder, which is addressed by yoga, still the research that goes into it is very small. And most of the studies, if you have gone through some of the papers, if you have had occasion to listen to talks on yoga research, most of the studies still, even today, they just concentrate on three aspects to explain yoga. One is the HPA axis, and which is the next one is the hormone or the endocrine, and the third one is your electrophysiology, like parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. I'll skip those. So this is what I was mentioning. Yoga research is mainly, it was in the first few years mainly restricted to electrophysiology and psychology. These days, there are lots of neuroscientists who are also very much interested in what yoga does to your brain, and they are trying to look through different techniques like MRI, Doppler, and many other techniques to see, and FNIRS to look at the blood flow to the brain, what happens to the different regions of the brain when you do different kinds of yoga practices or meditation. So the neuroscience is also fast developing an interest in yoga, and neuroscience, yoga research in neuroscience is also coming up on a big scale these days. And psychology, of course, since we call it as a mind-body medicine, in any yoga research, you have to have a psychological component to it. Otherwise, you won't understand what is happening with the physiology. And then biomechanics is one specialized area which also is getting a lot of interest in yoga, because biomechanics tells us on how exactly, what we do in yoga is mostly very slow movements, right? These very slow movements, how do they have that kind of effect? They are almost a panacea for many of the ailments what we have, especially the non-communicable diseases, but not restricted to it. They can do such wonderful things just by moving your body parts in a slow rhythmic manner, of course with controlled breathing, and trying to do it with awareness. So awareness and this controlled breathing, leaving apart, what constitutes yoga is studied by biomechanics. What happens when you stretch your arm, what happens to your muscles, what happens to your tissues, what happens to your, how does your muscles stretch, and what happens to your internal organs, how do they start getting more blood supply to them. All this is studied in yoga through biomechanics. And one of the latest interests for yoga research is the molecular biology, biochemistry, and genetics. This also is good. So I'll just go directly into some of the research findings what we have got in our lab. I have kind of tried to um, put it in a very simple way. If it's still, if it is not very clear, please ask me. I will take time to explain it. So yoga, one of the things, one of the first and foremost definitions in yoga mentions that yoga brings about homeostasis, right? So what is this homeostasis? Homeostasis means samatvam. Samatvam. What is this samatvam? In biology, we can equate this samatvam to a kind of a systemic homeostasis, or a balance between different organs and system. But then we started thinking that how can we show this? How can we show that there is a balance between different organs and system? So we took some very simple tests like biochemical tests, what you would get, what you can get done in any regular pathology lab, like blood sugar, lipid profile, kidney function, liver function test. So we took around 13 such kind, sorry, 11 such kind of tests, and we arbitrarily decided if in a person, 9 out of these 11 parameters or within a particular range, within the normative range, then maybe we can call it as homeostasis. And when we looked at two groups of people, the control group who are not doing yoga and the yoga group who have been practicing yoga since at least 1 year, we saw that most of these parameters, 9 out of 11 parameters, was in the homeostatic range or within one small little range in 91% of the people in the yoga group, as compared to only 54% in the control group. Which means that, by doing yoga, you do have a better balance and better interaction between different organs and the systems in your body. And this is one of the studies that was conducted by one of my colleague, Dr. Venugopal. No, this is a study on diabetes. Dr. Venugopal, what he showed was that by doing by doing yoga, in diabetes, you can bring down the fluctuations in the blood sugar level. In diabetes, it is not just the elevated blood sugar that is a problem, but what is more bigger problem than elevated blood sugar level is the fluctuations in the blood sugar level. One time it goes down to 60, 70, and then after you have food, it shoots up to 250, 260. So this is the reason why many people develop comorbidities. This fluctuation is the reason for comorbidities like cardiovascular problem, kidney problem, nephropathy. All these complications of diabetes is because of the fluctuations in the blood sugar level. So what Dr. Venugopal was able to show was these fluctuations was this is how it is fluctuating. This figure, what you see on the top, it shows this is the normal range, optimal glucose range here in somewhat green color. So this is the range in which the blood sugar level is supposed to be. Whether it goes up, it has to be within this, and whether it comes down, it has to be more than this. But in diabetic people, this is how it happens. Yeah, the fluctuation is very big. So what Dr. Venugopal was able to show was that these fluctuations, the MAGE is the mean of daily difference. So this is somewhat like looking at the fluctuation. So when you see here in the control group, with the pre and post, 115 to 109, this is the blood sugar level. But if you look at the same in the yoga group, 77 to 60, which is significant change. So it was able to bring down this fluctuation to a significant level, which also again is an indication that yoga can bring about homeostasis or a balance in any one given system or at the whole body level. And one more very interesting thing, which many people have not uh, tried to explore with yoga, is the specificity of yoga. We try to do that only because one of our founders, Dr. H.R. Nagendra, or who we call belovedly as Guruji, he always keeps saying that, if you want to really have yoga as a medical system, you should have it, you should make it do everything that modern medicine can do. If you have a headache, you pop a pill and you get rid of your headache in 5 minutes. Can yoga do that? Unless and until you can convince me that yoga can do this, you cannot call that as a medical system. And what we saw was something which is On the way to that, it is not really achieving that, but on the way to that, we also saw that yoga modules, we can prepare yoga modules to address a very specific problem. You can you define, or you can design a yoga module only to address blood sugar level. You can design yoga module to address your obesity. Like that, you can design modules to specifically address particular problems. So this figure, what you are seeing now, shows an example of that. So in our hospital at the SVSI University, we have different sections. So I have taken only three sections here: diabetes, obesity, and the cardiology section. So in the diabetes section, when we saw that, before and after, FBS and PPS, we saw that in 84% and almost 70% of the people in the diabetes section showed a significant reduction in the blood sugar level. In the obesity section, it was only 50%, and also in the cardiology section, it was only 50%. When you look at the lipid profile, which is more related to obesity and cardiology, we saw that in the obesity section, almost 100% of the people, they all reduce their lipid profile parameters, whether it is total cholesterol, triglyceride, HDL, LDL, or VLDL. 100% of the people reduce their lipid profile as compared to much lesser percentage of people in the diabetes and cardiology section, which means that you can design yoga module very specifically, just like how in modern medicine they develop specific drugs. You can also design yoga modules specifically to address a given problem. And this actually is pioneered in India, and one of the first person who started trying out this is Dr. Nagaratna, who has dedicated all her life to make yoga as a therapy. And then, until now, I have been talking about non-communicable diseases. That is what we knew yoga can do. Yoga can address non-communicable diseases like obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, uh, depression, so many of these non-communicable diseases. But one of my PhD student, Professor Harichandra, who is basically an engineer, he had a great interest in working with HIV people and children. So he took up this study, additional PhD. He was already a PhD in metallurgy, but he took up one more PhD in yoga. And for his PhD, he was studying children, and he gave intervention, yoga intervention, to this HIV children. And he looked at many biomarkers, and in that he saw this viral load. The CD4 has increased, CD4 by CD8 ratio has also increased. The CD4 is nothing but the cells which are attacked first by the HIV virus. So when one has a HIV infection, this HIV virus first goes and attacks the CD4 plus T cells. This is one kind of immune system cell. So they go and attack those cells. These are like the first line of defense. These are like our maybe I can say border security force or something like that. These CD4 plus T cells are like the first line of defense, and that is exactly what our this HIV virus affects. So there was an increase after yoga. There was an increase in these CD4 T cells, which means that our first line of defense was strengthened. And we also saw a drastic decrease in the viral load from the mean here to here in all the children. This is the mean of all the children, but there was a drastic decrease in the viral load. Now, this also proved that yoga is not just for non-communicable disease, but it can also address infectious diseases as well. And yoga, like I was mentioning, yoga works at all different levels. It is not just at the immune system. It is not just at electrophysiology. It is not just a sympathetic or parasympathetic. It is not just sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system. Yoga can work even deep within the cell, even inside the cell, even at the molecular level, even at the genetic level. Yoga can have an effect. This is one example of that, what we are seeing here. As just before we develop into diabetes, there is one stage called as pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is when your blood sugar will be between 100 and 125. So this is pre-diabetic. It means that you are soon going to become diabetic. What happens at pre-diabetic stage? One of the main thing that happens at pre-diabetic stage is your insulin level drops. There is much less production of insulin. There are two phases of insulin. Insulin is the molecule which regulates your blood sugar level. So you need insulin to tell your muscles to take in the blood sugar. That is how it reduces the blood sugar and it pumps the sugar into your muscles and tissues. Without insulin, the sugar will stay in the blood. It won't enter any of the muscles or any other tissues. So you need insulin for the muscles and other tissues to take in the sugar. So what happens in prediabetes is there are two phases of insulin. As soon as we start having food, within first 10 minutes, there will be a big peak of insulin that is released. So it will be like one big shot of insulin that will be pumped into the blood to remove all the sugar from the previous meal. Whatever you would have had 4 hours or 6 hours earlier, there will be still some sugar left in your blood, right? So to remove all that sugar before you again are going to have food, and again it is going to put the sugar into your blood, all this sugar from the previous meal will be removed from the blood by this first phase insulin release. I don't have a picture here for first phase insulin release, but there are two phases. The first phase happens just 3 to 10 minutes after we start having food. Once we start having food, it starts, insulin release starts. And this is the first phase insulin release. And second phase insulin release starts at around 15 to 20 minutes and continues up to 2 hours. This first phase insulin, it starts at 3 minutes and ends at 10 minutes. But the second phase, it starts at 20 minutes and lasts up to 2.5 hours. In pre-diabetes, what happens is this first phase insulin release is lost. There won't be any insulin that will be released before you have food. That is why the PP, the postprandial blood sugar, will be much higher in people who are developing diabetes or in pre-diabetic stage. So what we saw when we did when we did a randomized control trial, this was also from one of my colleague, Dr. Jintu Priyan, and this paper was even recognized by American Diabetes Association, and it was presented there. It was selected for a presentation in the American Diabetes Association. What we saw was, these lines, I cannot really separate out these lines, but I'll tell you the insulin in the pre-stage is somewhere here. And in the post, this is what you see. The insulin release came back after 3 months of yoga. The insulin release that was first phase insulin release that was lost in pre-diabetic people, it came back. And almost 95% of the people who were in the intervention group, in the yoga group, they become normal. They reversed from pre-diabetes to normal. So this is one way of showing that yoga works at molecular level, even within the cell and at the genetic levels as well. And this might be a little kind of tricky to explain in a given short time, but I'll try to do my best. And yoga also, can come up. Most of the times we see, uh, uh, how can I say? Um, Yoga does something which you cannot expect. You have heard of miraculous cases. You have heard, I had this migraine headache since last 15 years, and I started doing yoga. I had tried all kind of therapies before that, but I started doing yoga and I completely got rid of my migraine. And even here, a modern medicine doctor, allopathic doctor, sometimes they are not able to explain. I don't know how this happened, or whether it is asthma or some kind of allergy or some kind of, whatever, any kind of ailment. Once you start doing yoga, it kind of just vanishes. This happens because our body has the ability to address any given problem. Anything that becomes a problem for us, our body has a system to take care of that. It can address that. But the only problem is when there is stress, these systems don't work perfectly. It is just like us, just like any other animal or just like a human being. Even the cells inside us, even the tissues inside us, they just behave like us as an organism, how we behave. When you are stressed, you don't take right decision. You take all kinds of, you get angry, maybe you do a mistake, and then your blood sugar shoots up. This happens, that all the things which are like opposite of being healthy starts happening when you are stressed, right? In the same way, even inside the cell, when you are stressed, your body cannot address the problem. So by doing yoga, when you relieve that stress, what you are giving is you are giving your body an ability to rectify itself. You don't have to you don't have to take any medicine. You don't have to do anything. I'm not suggesting you to stop medicine. I'm just saying it as a um, you know as what yoga can do, that it takes can, using your own body system, it can heal many of your problems. Here is one such example what we are seeing. This is again a diabetes related study, and here again, this is with diabetic people, not pre-diabetic, but diabetic people who were diabetic since 10 years. And we got one more group of people who were also diabetic since 10 years, but they were doing yoga at least for 2 years. In that 10 years, in the last 2 years, we took only those kind of people who were doing yoga at least for the 2 years before that. We collected their blood sample and we analyzed all these molecules like insulin, IL-2, C-peptide, proinsulin, pancreatic polypeptide, cortisol. So don't worry about all the other things. What we see here is that this is a kind of a representation called multidimensional scaling, where the distance between the markers also have information. Anyway, don't worry about that. I'll just summarize that for you. Here, what we saw was IL-2 is a molecule which is a immune system related molecule. This IL-2, what it does is it either helps the cells to survive, or it helps the cells to die. There is a programmed cell death in our body. Cells also undergo apoptosis or suicide. Our body itself kills some of the cells which cannot be repaired. So this happens in a stressful situation. When you are stressed, you cannot, like you have your mixer grinder here. You have 10 guests in your home and your mixer grinder somehow stops working. You cannot sit and start repairing like you would do on a relaxing Sunday. What you will do, you will immediately go and get one more grinder mixer from your neighbor, or a new one from what you call the shop, and you get the job done. That is what happens in stress. So whenever there is a problem in the cell, it doesn't go rectifying it, it just kills it. It says get out. You just kill it, throw it out, and bring in a new cell. But what should be ideally done is it should be repaired, and its cell cycle or the cell survival should be promoted. So this IL-2 does both the things. When you have more stress, it pushes the cells to die. It pushes them into the pathway of apoptosis. And when there is low stress, like in the case of this yoga group, it promotes the cell to survive better. So we saw in diabetic people, through this IL-2, it was promoting pancreatic beta cell function, pancreatic beta cell health. Pancreatic beta cell are the ones which produce insulin. So this IL-2, by doing yoga, when we saw in yoga, in the people you're doing yoga, when the cortisol level was low, and IL-2 was promoting insulin levels. It means it was also promoting pancreatic beta cell. It was promoting cell survival. While as here, when the cortisol levels are high, IL-2 was pushing the cells more towards apoptosis, or whenever there is small little damage to the cell, it is killed in the body. So yoga can really, long-term interactions, like depending on what is the status, take a decision and implement changes that are beneficial in the long run. I don't want to go too much into the detail. Yoga was, this is one of the studies which we did in Antarctica through the funding of DRDO. So what we saw here was really amazing. Yoga helped in adaptation like nothing we had seen before. Adaptation, what you have, what is the kind of problem you have in Antarctica? It is climate is very bad. The temperature is around -30, -40. It can even go to -60. So your body should be able to, if you want to survive there, it is not possible without the modern gadgets to survive there out in the wild. But in any way, even within the house, if you want to survive in the harsh climate, you need a better adaptation. You have to be able to adapt to that climate. And also, it is not just the climate. Most of the time, people there cannot even step out of their cabin for months together. In the winter, for 3, 4, 5 months, there will be severe cold and blizzards and snowfall almost every day, and hardly 1 hour a day or 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, maybe you can step out. Or sometimes you cannot go out for 15, 20, 30 days. You just have to be inside one small cubicle. So that creates a lot of psychological stress also. What we saw when we did a randomized control trial in Antarctica with the people who were doing yoga and who were not doing yoga, or we taught them yoga there, we saw that there was a much better adaptation, much better adaptation in the people who were doing yoga in terms of their ability to increase their body temperature. So most of the people who were doing yoga were able to maintain their body temperature much more efficiently than the control group people. This was happening through one molecular mechanism, which is shown here. It is a little elaborate. It will take some time to explain. So if anybody of you are interested, I can explain that. And we also saw that, hair growth was promoted on the body, which means that thermal regulation. Now, for us to feel warm, we need hairs. As human beings, we have stopped using hair. We use cloths. We don't use hair anymore. But still, that information is buried inside our system. As a human being, that information is still there in our cell, that whenever this happens, hair growth is the one which can regulate your body temperature. So how yoga could tap into that, I don't know. But yoga was able to do those amazing things. And these are some of the functions that yoga changed to help in adapting to that better that climatic condition. It changed, it was affecting the DNA replication, it was changing the cell cycle progression, DNA conformation, apoptosis, stress response, and many of those parameters. Yeah, I think I will just end with this. So this is one of the. So we have done. Yeah, okay. This is interesting. Let me talk about this. So we are still conducting this study, but we recently completed one study on sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is a genetically inherited disorder where the RBCs, or the red blood cells that is there in the blood, the RBCs are the one which carry oxygen, which helps in taking oxygen to every single cell in your body from your lungs. You breathe the oxygen through nose, it goes into the lungs, and from the lungs it is exchanged into the RBC, and this RBC takes oxygen to all the cells, tissues, every single living cell that is there in your body. This RBC takes oxygen. But in sickle cell disease, what happens is this RBC changes its shape. Instead of being round, it starts becoming sickle shape. Sickle is how to say, the one which you cut the grass with, and I don't know what you call it in Hindi or any other language. It becomes sickle cell shape. So this makes the RBC's oxygen carrying capacity. This compromises. This reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the RBC. But what we saw was, after yoga, these even genetically inherited disorder, even in genetically inherited disorder, a different kind of hemoglobin inside the RBC was showing up, which was helping improve the oxygen carrying capacity in the children. This was done in children also, children and adolescent up to 20 years of age. There were two age groups, 5 to 10 and 10 to 20 age group. In both the age groups, we saw that there was a better oxygen carrying capacity. And not just that, people with this sickle cell disease, they have a lot of pain issues. They get severe pain because the sickle RBC, different shaped RBC, they get stuck to the blood vessels. They block the blood vessel. They block the blood vessel. They don't allow the blood to flow. And this becomes very painful. And it can happen in any part of the body. But once we started the yoga intervention, none of these children and adolescents in the yoga group experienced any kind of this painful crisis. There were one or two, of course, out of I think 33. Out of 33, there were one or two who experienced some kind of painful crisis. But 95% of the people They did not have any kind of a painful crisis, and also they need sometimes very frequent hospitalization. Like once in 2 months they have to go to the emergency ward because they're pain, or there are many spleen. There is a problem with the spleen. And in the yoga group, we saw that none of these children needed any kind of hospitalization in the 6 months where we were giving yoga, and also 3 more months when we were following them up. So these are some of the um, findings what we have um, uh, from the molecular biology lab here in SVSA about the molecular level effect of yoga. So there are many more things. If you are really interested in understanding the molecular biology or how exactly the molecular mechanisms are changed, I can tell you about the general molecular mechanisms which are changed, not from yoga perspective, but just about the molecular biology. With that, I will just end my talk. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
If anyone have any doubt, can ask to directly sir.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, Bharti madam.
yeah, sir, you have one experiment. You have shown the graph that sickle cell one that was done on children. Which place? Which place it is? It has been done.
It is in Nandurbar, Maharashtra, madam. This was a pilot study what we did. So it was in Nandurbar in Maharashtra, and in one taluk called Taloda, and in one village, Bijri. We set up the center there, and this all belongs to the Nandurbar district in Maharashtra, which is very close to Gujarat, Surat.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, sir, that you said that insulin secretion in two phase. Initial phase is almost immediate, and second
Right,
phase almost nearly till 2 hours, right?
right, very true.
Huh. So, is there any correlation with peripheral insulin?
What do you mean peripheral? This is the insulin that you can find in the bloodstream. You can measure it anywhere, even in the blood. This is peripheral. It is not just in the pancreas. I'm not talking only about pancreas.
Acha, you are
Peripheral.
talking about peripheral only.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes, yes. Right.
Okay, 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 okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, hi sir.
Hello.
Sir, my question is that in this type of research, like molecular, particularly if specifying that word molecular research, is there means required any doctor in this type of research domain?
You mean qualification wise?
Qualification my means like I have a qualification, like I'm a PhD scholar of yoga, and I
Okay.
have this domain, but I'm not have idea or experience or like
No, not
ideology.
not really. I mean, you can these days. Yeah, you can, and it is like Giriraj sir. You know, as a PhD, the person who has done his PhD, you know that basics. You need to know basics to be strong in any field, right? So that applies to molecular biology as well. You can do research. There is no restriction per se
Okay.
for you to write a proposal on molecular biology. No, nobody will
Mm,
stop you. You can do research. But if you want to be really good in that, you
mm,
need to kind of strengthen your molecular biology or
right.
biochemistry,
Right.
basics of these things. Yes.
Okay. Means if somebody who is doing his research in
Mhm.
this particular domain, uh,
Mhm.
he may required a guide from
Yes.
the MBBS, means the allopathy
No,
side,
no, 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 no,
or
not doctor.
modern scientific.
No, no, not doctors. You might need another PhD. I mean, it depends on the questions you are asking, because
Okay.
mostly the medical doctors,
Mm,
um, they are good in physiology. And
Okay.
when it comes to like molecular level, like
Uh,
gene and molecular level
mm,
things, they don't give a lot of importance to that because they look at the translation. So I
okay.
say gene expression, I say genetic
Mm,
change, but what they are more interested in, what happens to physiology because of this. They are masters in that. So
okay.
if you really want to look at molecular level, you need another PhD guy as a
PhD.
guide.
We need a
Yeah.
scientist basically for that.
Yes. Yes. Right.
Okay.
That's
Right.
right. That's
Thank you
right.
so much.
Most well. All the best.
Sir, I have a one more doubt, sir.
Yes. Yes, Raj.
Many more students they are confused because just they completed their master degree,
Okay.
and should they take this kind of topic as you tell because these are, I think, something belong to projects. Without projects we cannot run these kinds of
Yeah.
research,
They, they,
no?
they, they all need. They
So
all need a they all involve some kind of reagent, and there is a cost involved for this reagent. Yes.
so my question is that, sir, because students they do not know their project will clear or not. I think one more my student Madhu, she was trying to do research on the uh, neurons. I think that how neurons can store the memory.
Mhm.
So this kinds of topic need to project now. Should these kind of students should they select these kinds of topics or not? So it's very common doubt because after that, if they will do lots of efforts to make the
Rahulji, I
preparation
got,
of the topic.
I got the point. I got the point. See, nowadays, all of the research is multidisciplinary. If you want to do research in one domain, it is out of fashion. A biochemistry guy only doesn't do research in biochemistry. It has gone out of fashion. Every, everything is multidisciplinary now. So what you need is an idea. If you are interested in working in diabetes, like I'm saying, only with yoga background and no molecular biology, biochemistry background, you are interested in working in diabetes, you know that some of the asanas from ancient literature, you have found out that it really helps in diabetes, right? So to understand that basic small little information, what you need, you can always get it. And if you want more specialized information, you have to collaborate with somebody else who has that domain knowledge. So you bring your yoga expertise and what yoga tells about diabetes in ancient scripture, and you go to a molecular biologist or biochemist and tell him that, see, this is what ancient literature says. It says that by, for example, give me one name of one asana, something. Give me name of one asana, something, some one asana, which helps in diabetes. Trikonasana.
Ardha
Mandukasana.
Matsyendrasana, sir.
Sir, Mandukasana.
Mandukasana. Okay, Ardhamatsyasan or Mandukasana. So you say Mandukasana or Ardhamatsyasan. I want to know what it does. Does it for this you need to just study basic like what is diabetes, what is pancreas, what is insulin. So at least if you can study these basic concepts, you can go and say, see, this Ardhamatsyasan or Mandukasan, it says that it increase it. I think it increases this pancreas level. You go and talk to a molecular biologist and say, you tell me how it increases. You tell me the mechanism. I am telling you the idea. You tell me the mechanism. But nevertheless, you need money for sure, of course. But whether you should work or you should not work because of your expertise, this is the answer I would give. All you need is interest. You don't need, if you want to really work yourself in the lab, yes, you need to have qualification. You cannot do that. But if you can collaborate with some other people, some other student who can do the wet lab work, they will do the lab work and you give the idea, you interpret the result, you interpret the physiology. Why not?
Sir, here one major important question just remind me because you told ki collaboration.
So the last
Okay,
one was
if
not important question.
no, and it is that was also important, na?
Okay,
Something
okay,
it arise again, yeah.
okay.
That you told ki collaboration. Okay,
Mhm.
if I and Giriraj sir, we both are interested in the RNA level. We want to do on the DNA RNA level. but I cannot do alone. Can we both together do a single research in PhD? It will be included or not?
No,
Both
not
are
in, I mean,
PhD scholars.
no. I mean, you cannot share one. Yeah, I mean, if the questions, if you have three objectives for you and three objectives for Giriraj sir, then you can. But what collaboration I was talking about was with the research idea, in established lab, you go to somebody who already knows molecular biology and collaborate with them. They will provide you the molecular biology part, you provide the yoga part.
The collaboration is only for the laboratory and its process.
But your
So two
objectives,
scholars.
if you can have separate objectives, for example, you want to work with RNA. Okay, RNA is one of the most versatile molecules in your body. It works like protein, it works like DNA, it works like lipids, it works like multiple things. It is a very versatile molecule. So you want to see how RNA changes with yoga. Okay, so in this, you take three objectives and let Giriraj take three objectives, and these are three separate objectives, not linked to each other, but linked to what yoga does to RNA. That way, yes, why not?
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's it, Ramji.
Sir, may I
Yeah.
ask question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir, I have a question that can we measure the apoptosis rate in human body?
Sorry, Aditi, madam. Your question is whether we can measure apoptosis, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can. We very well can. We
Okay,
very
so
much can. Yes.
okay, so we take research on. We should need to take a research on this topic that um,
Yeah,
by performing a
apoptosis.
yoga protocol,
Mhm.
apoptosis rate change or not.
Very good, very good. Yes, you can. You very well can. But like I was saying, you need some kind of a molecular biology knowledge to undertake such research. If you have a collaborator, yes, like I was just mentioning, you don't need to know everything. You can just have basic knowledge, and you can go to this collaborator who is much more knowledgeable in that area and tell him this is your doubt, and you tell me how we are going to approach it. But if you yourself want to do everything, then you need a very detailed understanding of molecular biology to approach such a question.
Okay.
Because the
So,
tools and technique, whatever you use, they all are, you need to know how molecular biology works. Otherwise, it is not very convenient or easy to use those tools or instruments. But it is possible. In theory, it is possible. I'm not discouraging you at all. It is very much possible.
okay, sir. So we need any collaboration in this
Uh-huh.
matter.
I would say. I mean, otherwise, you study molecular biology. You study molecular biology for 2 years, or you study the basic and collaborate with somebody who knows molecular biology very well. That is a better option. You don't have to study every subject. That's why I said world is going more and more in the interdisciplinary. I tend to take up, a lot of physics related question in my research also. So I don't have to study physics. That would be just a um, I wouldn't call it waste of time, but I don't have to in this today's world. I can just approach somebody who is very good in physics, like for example biomechanics. You need a lot of very good idea about physics there to understand biomechanics. I had one idea, one research idea. I'm just putting it open to all of you. Any one of you can also take it up for your research study, but I would like to see the results of that study. In yoga, they say how you give instruction is equally important for yoga. I mean, equally important to know how yoga works. So I wanted to do a very simple research. This is an MSc level research, maybe, to have through three groups of people. One group, you will give very basic information like bend down, touch your toes. And the second group, you will say a little bit about anatomy also. When you bend down, you should feel your calf muscles stretching and your rib muscles kind of also stretching out. So you give some anatomical things as they are doing, so that they know if this is not happening, they are not doing the asana properly. And for the third group of people, you also mention about the use implication, what is happening to your blood flow, what it is used for. You give a very elaborate description. I'm sure, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I think the effect of yoga, all the three people doing the same asana, the effect will be different. And how do I measure this? I can measure it using biomechanics. In biomechanics, I can just see in which group of people where I gave a very simple explanation or a very detailed, elaborate explanation, are all the muscles stretching as it is required, as it is said, as it is said in ancient yoga texts. So I want to use biomechanics for this. So for this reason, I don't have to learn biomechanics or learn physics, everything. I will just go to a biomechanics person. I'll say, this is my idea. Using your biomechanics, can you show me? Does it make sense, Aditi madam?
Yes, sir. Sir, it will be great if we do this talk, this in this matter.
Yes, think so. I think so.
Have anyone any kind of doubt, or can we close this session? Yeah, I think no doubts, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rahulji. You have to give me feedback. I'm not saying it for any other reason, but just if you want, you don't want all of these people, interested people sitting here to go back and say, ये राहुल जी आप क्या कर दिया, क्या arrange कर दिया, हमें समझ में नहीं आया, या तो it is not of use for us or something. I'm not saying समझ में नहीं आया, नहीं. Yeah, everybody will be able to understand. Maybe if you don't understand, it is my fault. I did not explain it properly. But if you want it in a different way, if you want, say, when you talk about molecular biology, talk from the basic, whatever it is, you have to give me feedback.
I would like to say something.
Please, Giriraj, please.
Sir, actually, it was very informative. Whatever you have given, like हम अभी इस बारे में तो सोच ही नहीं रहे थे कि योगा will also happen in this particular field also. So this is very informative for us and knowledgeable. So I would like to say thanks on behalf of from all the team have like MDYA.
Thank you, Giriraj. That was the idea. That was just my idea with this talk, just to make you acquainted with all the different kind of research that is happening in yoga. That's all. Thank you.
Sir, it was really quite informative. The only thing is, there is a two effect on our class, I can say. Like one is like people have idea that after doing PhD, maybe what kind of things or what kind of collaboration they can create and do the projects. So they will have an insight. And negative side is like people will start thinking doing in this line, which is actually not very easy. If your guide in university you are studying, there is some supports, then only it is feasible to do something. Otherwise, normally in PhD, simple topic will be more advisable to do, isn't it?
You're very right, madam. You're very right. But I would just like to add a small correction to that. You don't need to have a facility in your university or in your lab. You can approach. Nowadays, I'm telling you, people in other universities, professors and departments, they are very open to students who are interested in coming and doing research there. And like I said, it is not difficult at all. I mean, you just are from a different background. I am from a different background. For me, reading yoga text, understanding Patanjali Yoga Sutras is equally difficult for me. So it is not the question of difficulty, but this needs some kind of basic infrastructure. You do need basic infrastructure, but this infrastructure need not be in your place. It can be in somebody else's. If you are interested, come to my lab. Come to my lab. You're most welcome to come and do the research. Only thing is, I again say that we need to have some kind of funding. So that is the only problem. That is the only problem. If funding is there, then all the rest of the things you can arrange and you can do that.
Yes, sir. Funding is the main thing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I agree. At that part, I agree. Yes.
In a bigger objective, I think funding can be raised.
I think so. I mean, you just have to, like, when you are doing your pre-synopsis or before you start your research work, all you have to do is spend some 6 months of time to talk to people. If you have an interest, talk to them, write a joint collaborative proposal, and wait for another 6 months, during which you can write a review article. I'm talking about PhD. So first 6 months you take for writing your synopsis, and then next after during that you apply for funding, and next 6 months when you have to just sit and wait to hear from your funding agency, you can write a review article, which is also very useful for your PhD. So yeah, if you plan it in that way, I think it will work.
Right, sir. I think
Sir,
there's
again, sorry, Giriraj ji, आप complete कीजिए.
no, no, please, आप complete करो.
Sir, again, I am telling, I don't have idea. I am also new to this. Like review article also, if you are preparing, like for example, my topic is effect of yoga module in multiple sclerosis patient. So even I am thinking to write a review article. But some of people told me that review article acceptance is also like depends on where if I'm working or where I'm located, what is my background, that way only they accept. Otherwise, if alone I am writing review article, might not be accepted by journals.
You have to have an affiliation, of course. You need to be affiliated to some institute or organization or university. Without that, you cannot publish. That is true. But the other part, that it depends on which university, whether doing it from IIT will help and SVASA will not help so much. So when you publish, when you send a review article from IASC or IIT, has a much better acceptance rate as compared to sending an article from SVASA. That many people say maybe it is true, but we shouldn't worry about. That is what I would say. If you are sure about the quality of what you have written, quality of the information that you have provided in the review article, you shouldn't worry about that. That's just of nuisance value. You don't need to
Because my
stress.
university because my university deputy librarian suggested me, like, as I'm simply student, I am not working anywhere, I'm just simply PhD scholar, that's all. And
But you belong to a university. You belong to a
yeah,
university,
I'm
right?
belong to be
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's good enough. That's good enough. That's good enough. As a student, also you can publish. Why not? You just need to put.
Okay.
You just need to add one faculty's name from there, or if you have an affiliation PhD scholar from there, you still can.
I think she has a scholar number also. So
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
it should
I
not be a
have
problem.
scholar number.
Yeah, you can. You can. You can.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Ruchi want to ask something.
Sir, I'm a new student, and how to
Mhm,
collect data for it, because I'm right now in the fourth sem. I'm
mhm.
MSc Yogic Sciences, fourth sem, and I'm very much new to this area also. But I saw, then I thought, okay, this
Which
is
area?
very
Which area? What area are we talking about?
about this molecular biology. But you are, I
Mhm.
saw that on the topic, because I'm not first introduced to you. This is the first time I'm here.
No, you are
So,
completely jumping to the data collection part already. I mean,
synopsis के
you
लिए,
have to
right,
first
right.
make your synopsis, decide your objective, so all that, and then comes the data collection. So,
No, I was thinking कि I'll get for some simple question, then it won't relate with some complicated that I have to go and collect something, or that is more simple in yogic sciences, because I'm already MSc in botany long back. Right now I'm
see, yeah,
52. Yeah.
okay, that's see that, madam, that there are two things. One, it depends on your interest, and also as um, Rahul will know, I also tell in our university that, what do you want to do after PhD? If you want to get into real research, I want to continue as a researcher after PhD, then all this effort is worthwhile. You try to learn a new
Okay.
field, you try to understand, you study, you make collaboration. All this is worthwhile because you want to stay in research further, right? And
Yes, sir.
if you say, I just want to do it for my institute within department promotion, or I just want to do it because I want to have a doctor in front of my name, nothing else after that, then what you are saying, I wouldn't object to that. You just choose a simple topic and you do it. So it depends on what you want to do after your PhD. You say, I want to be in therapy. I would like to continue. I want to have my own therapy. I want to have do clinical and also research along with that. Then I will suggest you take up some topic which is very strong in therapy. You come up with a beautiful yoga module, you understand the mechanism, you do a good research work in therapy. I mean, I'm good or bad, I'm not saying about that, but I'm saying you do some work which is related to what you want to do later.
Okay, sir. Now I got it, because I was very confused, because I'm right now. You all are very advanced in this matter. I'm very much new, and actually, I just came like that. That I want to learn yoga, and because I was MSc, then I decided that I will go in some the technical idea of MSc. That's why I came to know. And then when I saw molecular biology in yoga, that's why this self will understand ki that science background and everything. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, madam. Yes, sure, madam. Thank you.
Sir, what are the tips you would like to give? Like for me, I want to continue as a researcher, PhD. In fact, I feel that I wrongly got into PhD for researcher. You don't need to do the PhD, right? But already I got into, so many people around my family and all suggesting you complete now. You already got into. But otherwise, before this also on lifestyle disorder, I used to work on 40 days of things pre-post analysis, like 10 CBs I conducted. But exactly I got into PhD because I know really exact method of doing research. But for that
Very
also,
nice.
now I realize there is no need to do PhD. Either I would have collaborated and learned from somewhere else also.
If you want to
But
grow,
what
if
is
you want to grow, you have to have PhD, madam. If you want to grow, if you want to have students, if you want to have a department of your own, if you want to be an academic institution, then PhD is mandatory.
okay? So it was not a wrong decision, it
No,
means.
no, no, not
And
at all.
what is
Not at
your
all.
suggestions like afterwards? Also, if I want to continue as a researcher, so what is, anyhow I am learning by looking at the articles. They are collaborating with, you said na, like some yoga
Right.
department, some physiotherapy department, and with the some bio related other people, they collaborate and do the research. That is some sense I'm getting. But you have any suggestions for that? If I want to continue like this, what is your precious suggestions? I like to hear.
You have asked me a very, very, very broad question, madam. I don't know if I can answer that in one or two sentences. But what I would say is the
Like, okay,
quality
I'm
of the
interrupting you,
research.
sir.
Please,
Sir, I'm
yes, go ahead.
interrupting you in
Please,
between.
please,
Like
please.
lifestyle disorder, I worked almost 1.5 years.
Mhm.
Now my topic is multiple sclerosis. So I
Mhm.
will do some simple feasibility study in PhD. But this topic I've taken means I might be working on 1 year or 2 years on this topic only. So in this topic, what is your suggestion? How I should go about?
See, you're basically asking me for an idea sitting here on the Google Meet to just suggest you an idea what you can do. I'm sure that you will be able to come up with wonderful idea, Bharati madam. That is not a problem at all. All the point that I would like to make at this point is research doesn't depend upon the tool. Research depends on the question that you're asking. Just because you have used molecular biology tool, it doesn't mean it is a wonderful research. I was just telling Rahul, I think Rahul, I don't know, a couple of days back, we do get, like papers from, I do review papers, yoga research related papers for some international journals. We get papers from international authors from Europe and America. Uh, and they have used molecular biology, genetics, very advanced techniques, if you may call it so. But it just doesn't have nice ideas. I feel that, even our MSc students are doing. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them, even our MSc students, do a much better work, but they are not able to publish in such high-end journals. That happens. But the quality of the research doesn't depend on the tool. It depends on the idea. Just a simple idea. I can tell you several of them. Today morning we had a prize distribution for some of the sports that had recently concluded in our university. I think Rahul was also there, and a couple of students, they were mentioning that one had done vrikshasana for 46 minutes, one girl, and there was one more boy who had done shirsasana for 37 minutes or something like that. And I happened to be standing next to the principal of Bachelor of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences College, and I just asked him, is it really okay to do 35 minutes of Shirsasana? Is it shown? And he said, sir, we have to do research on that. Why not do? Get these people, make them stand there and look at their electrophysiology, look at their heart rate variability, blood flow to the brain, a few parameters. And there are so that's why I say it just depends on the idea. You have to make the idea look nice, and it has to be complete. One difference how we do research and how Westerners do research is they do it thoroughly. They do it completely thoroughly. I'll give you just one example. We Indians, or even the whole Asians, we have an attitude of, this is not wrong. I'm not saying anything is wrong or right, but this is just a perspective. We know that, for example, let's say haldi or whatever is good for what you call infection. Yeah, wound healing, infection, for internal inflammation, whatever. We just follow it, right? But if you give the same thing to a Westerners, he would say, what is in there? I would like to know what is in there. What is the mechanism of action of that? How does it work? What will happen if I do it to give it to 10 people, 100 people? Anyway, this is a very elaborate thing, but they do it very systematically. So one thing, the first and foremost thing is the idea, and the second thing is kind of just conceiving idea doesn't make it a good research, but following it up with a good study design where you control most of the parameters and you do it very, very, very rigorously, scientifically, statistically, everything you do very rigorously, that becomes a good scientific research. For example, one of my BNY intern student, he was trying to understand the perception of yoga. So we did that in 3 or 4 different age groups. This is also, another idea for somebody who is interested in taking up research. Perception of yoga in among Indians. You try to do that very rigorously in different. You take 4 different age groups. You take 4 different educational qualification. You take 2 different gender or 3 different gender. Include the transgender as well. So you take 3 genders, 4 different age groups, different socioeconomic status, different educational qualification, and try to understand what they feel about yoga, right from yoga as a therapy, yoga as a spiritual practice, yoga for wellness, yoga for wellness, yoga for sports. So you include all the questions, and you do it in all these different strata of people. Use a good statistician, sit with a good statistician, analyze it in different ways, try to find correlation. I'm sure you'll be able to publish your paper in one of the best psychological journals, in international psychological journals. Why not?
So
Thank you,
you are
sir.
saying the same thing. What Sadhguru in Sadhguru Ashram yesterday only I saw the video of Sadhguru Ashram. They every day in the morning turmeric and neem ka they gives the goli everywhere every time. So this is very
Right,
rightly, and even molecular study on the water is also going on everywhere. So
right.
that thank you Rahulji that you called sir. Then I don't have an idea how to start my research and synopsis. So this is very informative session. Thank you.
Most welcome, madam. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you, Rahul.
for your precious time. So we can conclude the session with the Santi Mantra. I will request to Ruchi ma'am. See. please conclude with Shanti Mantra. Yeah.
सर आप करिए, मैं तो पहली बार आई हूँ। फर्स्ट प्लीज आप तो करिए, नेक्स्ट टाइम आई विल डू
That's why
पॉजिटिवली।
that's that's why I'm giving chance to you. For new students, new chance. Yeah.
ये कल वाला लफड़ा बहुत गलत होता है, आज से ही करो जो करना है।
हाँ.
ओके, चलिए अब सब लोग अपना अंदर ध्यान केंद्रित करेंगे, शांति मुद्रा में बैठेंगे, शरीर को एक आसन में जो आपके लिए सबसे आसान आसन है उसमें बैठ जाएंगे। शांति से सबसे पहले सांस अंदर लेंगे, ब्रीद इन कीजिए, ब्रीद आउट कीजिए, 3 बार ओम का उच्चारण करेंगे। ओम का उच्चारण हम इस तरह से करेंगे, तीनों वर्ड्स में ओम करके। तो शुरू कीजिए। और गर्मी से अपने आप को पूरी तरह से ईश्वर के समर्पण में पहुंचाएंगे। धीरे से हाथों को अपनी आंखों पे रखेंगे और धीरे 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 आंखें खोल के अपने शरीर पे पूरी ऊर्जा का स्पर्श कराएंगे। हरिओम तत्सत, हरिओम तत्सत। सभी आने वालों को धन्यवाद जो हमसे मिले हैं, और आज सर ने जो हमें नॉलेज दिया है उसे हम सब अंदर अपने अंदर ले सकें और इससे पूरे